I feel like because I was announced as a Canadian, I need to apologize for just being Canadian. How many of you are in ticket sales directly? Raise your hand. Nice, a lot of revenue generators here. How many are in renewals or customer service? Great, still generating revenue. You guys are very important. We're probably the most important part of your clubs, your business. We bring in the money. And the challenge is that every day we face objections. And I know we get trained on this a lot. It's probably the one thing that drives us all nuts, people telling us no. I started as a sales rep. I've been there where you've been. I've heard a lot of different explanations as why someone won't buy. But the one that's always bothered me the most has been this third-party objection. Third party, by definition, someone or something extraneous that becomes a barrier in the decision process. Words. I think as salespeople, we know what third-party objections really are. And so when someone says to us, hey, I need to talk to so-and-so. I need to make sure that X is okay with this decision. And what is it really? It becomes a nice way of avoidance. Again, I'm Canadian. We don't like to say no. We're very polite. And so instead of telling you I'm not interested, I'm going to say, hey, I need to talk to my spouse, my partner, my friend, my business partner, the executive, the board of directors, but somebody else, not me, is going to reject you. And I'm okay with that because I'm not the one telling you no. It's also deferring responsibility. And I think this is something we don't think about a lot, is that when people are looking to buy our product isn't always inexpensive. Sometimes we're asking them to spend upwards of $5,000, $10,000. And that makes people feel uncomfortable. So what they do is they defer that responsibility to someone else so that if that responsibility is given to the person who then says yes, if anybody says, oh, why did we buy that product? They don't have to worry about it. The other part is gatekeeping. We all know these guys. They're the ones that keep you from connecting with that third party for whatever reason. Executive assistants, junior managers, they just won't let you get in touch with that person, so you need to go through them. And of course, one thing we also probably don't think about is maybe a hidden objection. Sometimes people will just say it automatically because we haven't been able to ask them the questions to uncover some of what they're looking for. So they just, again, to defer it, they say, you know what, I have to ask so-and-so, but in the end, they're not really interested. What this does, though, is that creates additional variables. This isn't as simple as a one-to-one sale now. You've got someone else involved in the process, and you're going to have to bring them in. I refer to third-party objections as Death Valley, because what happens is we get stuck in this pit, and we start rolling this ball back and forth of trying to connect with this person. And we send the info, and what happens is this. They're really excited, and they say, yeah, thanks for talking to me, because why? Well, you know, we're sports, we're athletics, it's exciting. People want to talk to you. But that doesn't mean they're interested. They just type, right? I mean, let's be fair. This is a bit of an ego-fueled business. I know I love giving out my business card. I'm sure you all do. It's got your team logo on it, and it's exciting, and someone sees that, and they get excited too. But in the end, that doesn't help. They just want to talk to you. What happens again is they say, yeah, great, send me the info. They show you that excitement. You say, great, here's the info, and you just send them your booklet or an email or a PDF, and they take it and they walk over to this person. They go, hey, the Vancouver Whitecaps want us to buy tickets. And that person hasn't even thought about it, and they go, no, I'm not interested. Now that person doesn't even want to come back to you because they're afraid to tell you that no. They want to keep that relationship alive. And in the end, you get into this vicious cycle. So it does a couple of things. One is it gives us false hope because we're having this conversation with this person who is telling you, I'm interested in your product. But you're not talking to the person who has to make that decision. And in your mind, you're saying, well, this is great. This guy hasn't told me no. And I challenge any of you that you're not excited to make a sale. That's what we're driven by. We're driven by revenue. We're driven by closing that deal. We're driven by ringing the gong and celebrating our wins and our victories. We live and we thrive on it. And the problem is that we see that hope and we just hold on to it. We're too afraid to let that go. So you're excited and you get determined. And the reason I put aggressive determination is we do this. And I don't know if you've ever had this training done to you, but when I started as a sales rep, I was told, in the third party, talk to the third party. As soon as that third party objection comes into play, try and gun right for them. Hey, who's supposed to be making the decision? It's my boss. Can I talk to your boss? Who's supposed to make the decision? It's my spouse. Can I talk to your spouse? And we suddenly cut out that second party out of the equation, and we're just trying to leapfrog over them. And the problem is that now you've lost that level of communication with that second party, and we all know when you lose the aspect of communication, nothing's happening. It becomes annoying and frustrating because you're just going to continually contact that person. They're not telling you no, and so what are you going to do? You're going to keep going until you get that answer. I'm going to call you 10 times. I'm going to say, hey, did you speak to so-and-so? You know, did they get the info? Did they look at it? And they're going to say, no, not yet. You know, I've given it to them. They haven't given me an answer. All right, I'll call you back in another week. Week goes by, you call them back, and at some point this actually becomes a little bit of harassment. And it's a challenge because, you know, you're stuck in this cycle. Too much contact. You're trying direct to close. Like you're just going right for it. And in the end, it becomes confrontational. What happens here is it just dead stops you. I know we all talk about sales pipeline. Some of you have maybe a different misnomer for it, but in the end, this is our book of business. It's our sales garden. It's what we use to grow our revenue stream. And what happens is that it just clogs it all up. One, it wastes time. Every call that you make to one of these people is a wasted call. You've got how many people are there? I mean, how many of you have to make 2, 3, 4, 500 calls a week? You know, we're out there grinding. We don't have time to waste contacts and calls and emails. But because we have this sense of false hope, we're going after them. Oh, I'm gonna call Dave today because I know today's the day that his boss is gonna give him the yes. But every time you do that, you're not calling someone else who's a more viable prospect. 2, we burn leads. I've talked to him, I keep getting the runaround. Eventually I say, you know what, forget this. I'm not gonna contact this person anymore. And we just chuck him off to the side. But that doesn't mean that that lead is dead. But now that we've chalked it off, it's done, and we've lost it. You can't go back. 90% of the time when you've discounted somebody, it's over. And so that's a lost lead. And the other part too is that with this whole thing of let me talk to so-and-so, let me talk to so-and-so, eventually that person, they may have not talked to that third party, they're just gonna tell you no. And then you've lost them. Or you're gonna tell them no. Hey, I've tried to call you 780 times, and I just keep getting the same answer from you, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna take you out of my pipeline. But again, that doesn't mean, you know, that it's a no. You've put them in that position, and now again, you've lost a lead. Or what's worse, how many sales managers are in here? A few, okay? This is one thing that's driven me nuts when I became a manager, is that false hope, where you're sitting and you're talking to your reps, and you're saying, hey, what does your pipeline look like? And they go, I got 875 of these third party just waiting to close. And you're saying, well, okay, where's the revenue coming from? And they're saying, no, I got this. I'm gonna call them, it's gonna happen. And you start padding your stats, and you're creating this sort of fabricated lead value. But it's not going anywhere. And so you're stuck. And you do this. You go back and forth in this vicious cycle the whole time, and in the end, it just stops you dead. So hopefully I can teach you a couple of tips to get through that. Because this is one, again, that drove me nuts for a long time. When I was a young sales rep, I kept doing the same mistakes, just trying to get to that third person, really pushing that button. And reflecting back on this now, how much money I left on the table, how many leads I left on the table, it still bothers me. So the first thing you need to do is, let's clarify who that third party is. Who are they? Are they a family member, friend, business partner, board of executives, whatever? And the reason that we need to do that is that the dynamic with each one is different. And I think we can all make certain assumptions. I hate assuming anything, but you can assume how that relationship is with that person and what they want. You know, if you're looking at someone who's a family member, they're probably looking at going to events and games for family time. If it's friends, it's probably social. If it's business development or staff rewards, or you know, maybe even partnerships. But you can start pinpointing what you need to focus on. And then what's their status? Where do they matter in the decision cycle? You know, what's their priority? Are they the one that actually makes the decision? Or do they just need to give the okay? Or, you know, is it a shared responsibility? You know, what's the relationship dynamic? I think the dynamic between friends and family is substantially different than between your boss, than between a board of directors. And for those of you that have had to deal with, you know, a board of directors or an executive committee, it's no longer a third party, it's 17 parties, right? And you've got all these personalities. So as soon as you start understanding that dynamic of those relationships, now you can start molding your sales process a little bit and start understanding what you need to do and who you need to focus on to be able to get through that barrier of that whole, hey, I've dropped the information on their desk, it's up to them now. And the last thing in here is what's the communication method? And the reason this is so key, and I'm going to highlight this one a couple of times, the reason this is so key is because, and I know some of you will probably go, yeah, I made this mistake a lot, is we all have beautiful marketing pieces. Right? Like we're all pro clubs, we're all professional businesses. We don't handwritten paper. We've taken the time to go out there and develop a brand look and feel and nice glossy PDFs and presentations galore, and we love them. And the problem is that we wind up hanging on to those so much that we use those as actually the sales piece. Without customizing any of it, it's like, yeah, I'm interested in hearing your info, great. Here is my 375 glossy booklet on everything I have to offer. And then that person, again, picks it up, and they walk it over, and then they drop it off. That's not communication. So you have to ask the question, how do you actually communicate key pieces of info to someone? How do you guys converse? How do you talk? Because you're now bringing someone in who has a different point of view than the person you're talking to, which means you'll have to repitch your products for that third party. Does that make sense? So you're talking to one person, they tell you, I love your product. And you go, that's great. But what about that third party? What do they feel like? How do they like it? They have a different point of view. So you're going to have to go back in now and explain to them, okay, if this is what that person is saying, here's what you should be looking at. And you have to go through the discovery process. Second person doesn't matter anymore in the sense that you've already gotten to them, you've talked to them, you've learned about them. What's that third party? What info is important to them? That 350-page glossy booklet, that's not important. They're not even going to look through it. It happens to me. As soon as I move to the leadership role, people are trying to sell upwards. I get tons of collateral. I look at none of it because it's not customized to me. I'm not going to have time to flip through, again, 100 pages of stuff. I only want the things that are important to me. Show me that, and I'm looking at it. And so taking that into account, ask that question. What info is important to them? What do they want to know? Is it the ROI? Is it the cost? Is it the usage? Is it the number of games? Is it the experience? What's important? 2, how do they like the information provided? Going back to that booklet, they're not looking at it. This is a critical question because you're now asking this person to deliver your message. So you need to craft your message so that that person will look at it. Do they like it in bullet points? Do they like it in pictures? Do they like it in words? Do they like an email? Do they like it in balloons? However they like it, that's how you have to customize it. 2, how do they normally make decisions? When we talk about that death spiral, this is a big part of it because we don't understand how that third party actually goes through the decision process. What does it take for them to make the decision? Are they able to make it right away? Or does it take time? Do they need to look at it? Do they have to look at the budget? Do they have to confer with other staff members? When you understand that, then you can start going through the process of that recontact instead of calling them every day for 10 weeks. Ask the question, when does that decision get made? Normally they can make that decision right away. Great, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call you back in 2 days. Hopefully you made that decision. But if they tell you something else, don't call back in 2 days. It makes no sense. What's their influence in the final decision process? I mentioned this a little earlier, but I think this is key to understand because, again, that third party might not actually be the decision maker. There's multiple layers in companies. We all have multiple layers above us. Staff members, managers, directors, VPs. You could be talking to your equivalent, another salesperson. They say, great, I'm interested, but I need to ask my boss. But maybe the boss needs to ask his boss, and that boss needs to go upwards as well. So understand that process. Where do they sit? Are they the end decision maker or aren't they? I put where are they located because this is a funny one to me. North America is a huge continent. I just flew from Vancouver. Took me, I don't know how long. It was like 10 hours of travel time to go from one end of the continent to the other. Well, what if the decision process is made that way? What if, when I'm making this call, and we've all had it happen to us, you call a company in your local market, they say, we're not the ones that make the decision. Decision comes from head office. And we go, great, send it off to head office. But what if your head office is in the UK or in Mexico or, I know we're here in Atlanta, so in Vancouver. There's time difference, there's lags. And if we don't think about that, again, we get back into this cycle because we're assuming they're working on our time, but they're not, they're working on their time. Why am I going to follow up with you the next day when it's going to take 8 hours for my information to transit? I mean, they're not making that decision in 8 hours. It's going to take time to get there. Then they're going to have to look at it. Then they're going to have to make the decision. So understand how this works. This is something I don't think we do a good job of. We give up on that second party. Third parties come into play. Sorry, second party, you're no longer important to me. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, but you're out. You're not my friend. I want nothing to do with you anymore. Give me to the third party. But you're asking them to deliver your information. Again, glossy booklet, walk to desk. What are they doing? They're selling for you. So instead of just leaving them out, make them your salesperson. Like, they're the ones that have to do this sales job for you. They know their boss better than you do. They know how that person speaks. They know the decision process in the office. They know the lines of communication. So leverage that. Make that person you. Clarify what the other person needs to hear. Not just how they like it written, how do they speak to each other? Because then you can tell that person, well, if I was in your shoes, here are the things that I would say. Give them that directive. Understand how they communicate to the third party. Again, is this email? Is it written? Do they walk it down the desk? Are they down the hallway? And you can use the same example. Hey, here's what I would do if I'm in your shoes. Empower them with the power of your product. Again, glossy booklet out the window. You're customizing this information, and you're making that salesperson you. Now, how many of you have been given just like, I'm sure some of you've worked with great teams. I know there are great people out there who do great training and onboarding. But how many times have you gone into a job and they just give you a stack and go, figure it out? And you go, well, I can't figure this out. I don't know what's important to me. So don't do that to them. Empower them with the power of your product. You understand now the third party, they say, this is what we're interested in. This is their buying keys. This is the way they like their communication method. This is the things they want to see. Great. Then customize that piece for them and give it to them. Let me help you out. Let me make it easy on you. You're telling me this is what you need to do. Here's what I'm going to send you. This is what I would use if I was selling, so I'm going to give you those same tools. And then give them the script. Tell them what they need to say. They're not your salesperson. In fairness, they don't care, right? Like, this isn't a priority. Your priority is to make a ticket sale, is to renew a ticket, is to sell a suite, is to sell a partnership. That's your priority. That's not their priority. And it goes through that same thing every time. Do you mind doing this for me? Yeah, I'm going to do it for you. Absolutely. I'm totally bought in. I love this. I absolutely believe that we should be doing this. This is the greatest thing for our company. Then they walk over again and they go, hey, Drew, here's a book from the Braves. They want you to buy some stuff. And they go, yeah, okay, whatever. And it goes on the pile. And that big pile that sits on the desk that eventually winds up getting recycled and becomes pulp. So why do that, right? Tell them what they need to say. You can tell them directly. Give them examples. You know, the feel, felt, found, I think we've all been trained on that one. To me, that's an easy one. Great, I understand how that person feels. And I've had clients that felt the same way. But what I found is, by highlighting these things, it's really been able to get them to focus on making the decision. So there's a couple of keys. One is, make them an advocate. Not an advocate of your team. Again, ego-driven business, people love it. They want to have that logo. They want to be able to walk around with that little piece. And I think that we let that hang out there too much. You need to have that person an advocate of making the sale for you. Why is this important? Why does this need to be important for them? Why is it important that they do business with you? Why is any of this important for them to make that decision? If you can make them excited about it, you can make them believe, they're going to go and believe. Now I'm coming to Drew and I'm saying, Drew, I go, this is why it's important we do this. This is what the guy explained to me. He told me a lot of stuff. The 3 things I know that are important to you for this, I actually think we should do this. If I'm explaining that to you, I guarantee you that third party, they don't want to take the time to make the decision. They'll go, do you think it's important? You'll go, yeah, I do. They'll go, great, let's do it. But if you don't do that, and you don't make them an advocate, it dead stops. 2, set timelines and objectives. Again, that big cycle when we go through and we're doing those 87 calls a week to the same person, it doesn't make sense. Let them know. Let them know so they expect it. Let them know what you're going to do and when it's going to happen and how it's going to work. Make it really easy for them. This is not their job. So it's not a priority. So, tell them, hey, look, I'm going to make this really easy on you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you the info. What I'd like you to do is, if it's possible, if you could in the next 2 weeks at least get some insight on whether this is going to be able to move forward. And what I'd really like for this to happen is at least get an idea of whether we can set up a second call or a third call or whatever that objective is. But let them know, and then it'll be fine. They're expecting your call. Even if you can't reach them at that moment, they've been waiting for it. They'll call you back. But if you're not doing this, they'll start avoiding you, and you'll be leaving 7,000 voice messages and emails floating out there that will never be returned to you. It makes no sense. So why do that to yourself? Make sure to assign a follow-up task, not for you, for them. Because if you don't ask them to do it, again, glossy page on the desk in the recycling bin. Tell them what you need out of this. Here's what I need you to do for me. Even if it's telling you yes or no, it doesn't matter. Tell them they need to do something. All I need you to do is this for me. Possible, I need this to happen. They'll do it because it's easy. You've made it easy for them. And then we talk about how do they like to receive info and be communicated with. I'm not talking about the third party. I'm talking about the second party, because the same scenario. You're trying to empower them to be your salesperson. You need to understand how to talk to them. You can't just say, hey, here's what I want you to do. Go do it. They might not like being talked to like that. You might have to, again, I'm Canadian. Please be polite. Say, please, thank you. Sorry I didn't get you the information in time, whatever. But in the end, understand how they want to be communicated with, so when you empower them to be your salesperson, you can talk to them as you would a solo staff member. When we all look at each other in the office, and your boss says to you, I really want you to do this, here's why. And when you guys communicate well, and he tells you in a way that you want to hear it, or they tell you something that really resonates with you, you believe in it, because they understand how to communicate to you. Do it the same way. In the end, build a relationship. I always tell the story about an executive assistant when I worked for the Blue Jays for a while as a ticket sales rep. And I was stuck in this third-party objection cycle. And to Liz's point, actually, talking about data, as I was talking to this person, she mentioned to me that her young son is starting to play baseball and is a huge, I hate to say it, a huge Yankees fan. Division rival. Wasn't very happy to hear that. But we started talking a little bit. And I learned a little bit about her. And I said, well, look. I said, if you can help me a little bit with this and help me understand how your business works, help me understand who the people I should be talking to are, I'd be happy to bring you to a game, Yankees game, my seats, my treat, happy to do it for you. Called her back, she said, hey, she's like, if you really want to reach my boss, here's what you need to do. I said, thank you. And then I invited her to a game, met her, she was very nice. Her kid was ecstatic, loved his team, wearing a Yankees hat, which drove me bonkers. But what happened is that they became a friend of mine. This was a big company. So what I was able to do is actually reach back out to that person and say, hey, we have a great group program that I think would be really good for your company. Who should I speak to about this? And she was direct. She goes, here's the person you need to talk to, and here's what you need to do. Shared that key info with me. I never would have had that if I didn't do this. If I didn't create her as an advocate, if I didn't make her a salesperson, if I didn't build that relationship, none of this would have happened, and it opened new doors for me. Instead of just selling a pair of season tickets to her boss, I wound up doing, I think, close to $50,000 in business with this company. We did a massive group outing for them. They got a couple of suites for some games. They spent money, and I don't think any of it would have happened if I wasn't able to start it where I brought her in as my salesperson, created an advocate, made her understand what was truly important to me as the person that I was trying to get their business. Become their go-to person. Again, ego business. Everybody wants a guy. Everybody's got, fridge guy. You got the person that can get you into the clubs. You've got that one person that can do you a favor. Become that person. Because then what they're going to do is they're going to start reaching back to you. I have needs too. Can you help me with this? Absolutely I can. Can you help me with this? Absolutely I can. Never underestimate the dynamic of relationships, especially in this scenario. In the end, let's not discount empowering that second person. Hopefully, you got a couple of things out of this, because I'd like to see you take them back and try them. And these will open some doors. But reflect back on those times that you've been dealing with those second parties and think, how many times have you let them hang out there? How many times have you tried to drive too hard? Because I think when we think about the things we've done wrong, we can focus on the things we can do right. Thank you for your time. If anybody has any questions, I'm open to answering them.
just say up front, like, are you comfortable telling me no? This isn't always the fit.
Yeah.
Down the process, so that way they kind of feel more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the process when you're empowering that person to be one of your salespeople, look, in fairness, I mean, we don't bat 1,000. It's not possible. I mean, we get told no. I mean, how many times a day, a week? And I think, yes, to that point, when you're empowering them to be a salesperson, make them understand it's okay for you to say these words to me. And then they probably will. The more honesty you can create in that dynamic, absolutely, I think it makes it easier for them to give you the honest and true answer. Especially, it doesn't have to be a no, to tell you, look, I've talked to my boss, or I've gone to the board, or I've talked to my spouse, and they've said this isn't the right time. Not necessarily a no, but an honest answer, and now you're not chasing down that spiral. Gifting is one, letters, cards, nothing generic, always personalized. Let's be fair, how much, and this is something I think is just as a side note, email, which I hate. I hate email. I hate it more than anything else in the world now. A long time ago, it used to be, don't call me, just email me. And now it's flipping back and forth, right? I don't think people want to be emailed. You get so many emails in the day, especially ones that are generic. Hey, open this email. First thing that goes through your mind is, I'm not opening this email. So I think you've got to look for those personal, creative touches. Phone calls work really well. I love when people phone me. I love phoning people, even to leave that simple message, just to say, hey, I just wanted to reach out, connect, see how things were going. Periodic cards, especially, I think Liz made a really great point. If you're able to use those data points and you can actually personalize those for them, that starts creating that connection. But when you're coming up with a new sales program, you can reach out to that person and say, hey, look, we have this new thing, think it would be really great for you, and customize that to them. Yes, sir. I think three things. One, first and foremost, I think your sales gut will tell you a little bit when you know that something's not legit, put it to the side. But the other one is when you're going back and understanding those timelines, like right there in the previous slide when we were talking about understanding how the decision processes get made, is that. I think when you get really good at doing that, then you can put people in those different buckets, however you manage your pipeline. But they're not, again, that consistent follow-up. Okay, I don't need to reach out to this person for 3 months. I can put this off to the side, or I need to put them up high priority. I think with any kind of managing your pipeline, it's just asking questions. I mean, our business, in essence, is a discovery process. If you're not doing that, then I don't think you can answer that question. But if you are, then you can start fitting people into those blocks pretty easily. And don't be afraid to throw people out as well. Like, you'd ask the question, how do you make them comfortable? I think you both need to be comfortable. You need to be able to tell somebody, hey, this isn't right for you, this isn't a fit, and you need them to be comfortable and tell you the same thing. When that honest exchange starts to happen, then you can say, great, I really appreciate it, maybe I'll follow up with you when we start our next season, and you can move them out pretty quickly. I think the second thing that you mentioned, trying to get in front of someone can be kind of difficult, especially when you have a barrier such as that second party in the way. Again, there's that gatekeeping a little bit that goes on. They also could be saving you from getting involved in the same quagmire that they're involved in dealing with a committee. When you go through this process right here, I mean, I think that's the biggest key. When you create someone who's your friend and your advocate, you can ask those direct questions. Tell me about the board. Tell me about the committee. Who's on it? What do they look for? And you can start customizing it to make it easier for them. And then in the end, if they are an advocate of yours and they're a friend, then you can make the ask, would it be possible for me to come down and actually be involved in a meeting or come face to face with this? I mean, it's not that difficult. I think the real keys out of this are predominantly one, let's not suddenly discount right off the bat. Let's involve that party. Let's create them as a salesperson, and let's create an advocate and a friend. And I think just by doing those three things will really help you out. Just get through that. I think it's pretty simple. Again, to your question, it's the discovery process. It's asking, and that's all we need to do. But when we don't do it, and we make assumptions, then you're dead in the water. Great. Well, I appreciate your time. Best of luck in selling, everybody. I hope you all crush your numbers.